My grandfather's toolbox sat on a shelf in his barn for 11 years after he died, and I did not open it once.
I have told you before about the 4 things that came out of his pockets the spring he went. That was one afternoon, and it was done. The box was different. The box I left alone. There were 5 tools in it when I finally took the lid off, and 3 of them are on my bench right now, 20 feet from where I'm sitting.
One of them I do not use because there is a better way to do that job, and I am not going to pretend otherwise.
And one of them I will not use, and that is the one this whole video is really about, and I'm going to tell you why at the end. My name is Burl. I am 72 years old, and I have lived in these mountains my whole life. He was born in 1904, and he died in 1979. He was a timber man, and then he was a farmer, and in between he did whatever there was, and everything he owned had a reason for existing. He did not have a lot of tools. That is the part people get wrong about men like him. Walk into a hardware store, now and there is a whole wall of things, and the man who built the barn I am standing in did it with what fit in a box you could carry in one hand. So, let me take them out one at a time. The file. A 10-inch mill file with a wooden handle that somebody turned on a lathe, and it is the most used thing in that box, and it is the one nobody would guess. I use it every week. It is on my bench. Here is what people do not understand about a file, and it took me until I was maybe 40 to understand it myself.
Everything else in that box was only good because of the file. An axe is sharp for about an hour of real work.
A saw goes dull. A hoe goes dull, a knife goes dull, a scythe goes dull faster than any of them. A man in 1920 did not go buy a new one. He sat down at the end of the day, and he brought them all back. The file is what made a tool instead of a thing you throw away. And you can see it in that file. It is worn narrow in the middle where his hand fed it across a blade 10,000 times, and it is still cutting. The one you can buy today is stamped somewhere far off and it goes slick in about a year. It still bites.
I do not know how to explain that except to say that it was made when the people making it expected somebody to keep it.
The axe. Single bit, about a 3.5-pound head, and it is not the head that matters. He hung that handle himself out of a piece of hickory he cut and dried in the barn loft. I know he did because there is a mark on the shoulder of it where he trimmed it down with a draught knife and did not sand it out. Store handles are made of whatever runs through the mill. His is split along the grain, which is the only right way to do it, and the grain runs straight from the head to the knob without wandering once. That is why it never broke.
Grain that wanders is where a handle snaps, and a man who hangs his own gets to choose. I still use it.
Not for felling because I have a saw and I am 72, but for splitting kindling in the morning and for anything I would not trust a maul on. It has been rehung once by me in 1994, and I hunted 6 weeks for a piece of hickory good enough because putting a store handle on that head would have been an insult to everybody involved. The draw knife. 2 handles, a curved blade between them, and you pull it toward yourself, which is what makes people nervous the first time they see one. This is the tool that shaped everything on the place that was not square. Axe handles, hoe handles, chair legs, wagon spokes, fence rails, and the ribs of the one boat he ever built. You clamp a piece of green wood down and you pull, and the blade takes off a curl, and you go by the feel of the grain and not by a line you drew. A machine cannot do what that does, and I want to be careful about how I say that, because I do not want to sound like an old man pretending nothing works now. A lathe makes a round handle.
A draw knife makes a handle that fits the hand of whoever is going to use it, and those are 2 different objects.
That one is on my bench too. I have not shaped a wagon spoke in 40 years, but every handle in this house has been through it, the brace and bit. Now this is the one I do not use, and I'm going to be honest with you rather than romantic. A brace is a hand drill. You crank it in a circle and the bit goes down into the wood, and the auger bits in that box will still cut a hole 2 inches across in a green oak beam. It is a beautiful thing. It is also slower than a cordless drill by a factor of about 20, and it will wear a 60-year-old man out in an afternoon. I have a cordless drill. I use it. The brace hangs on the wall. I am telling you that because a lot of people who talk about old tools will not admit when a new thing actually won, and once they lie to you about one thing, you have to wonder about all of it.
The drill won. That is the truth. What did not win is the way they are made now, and that is a different argument.
That brace is 100-some years old and every part of it still turns. The drill I bought in 2019 has a battery that will not hold past next year, and when it goes, the drill goes.
So the new one is better and the old one lasts. Both of those are true, and neither one cancels the other.
The fifth one, a wooden bench plane. Beach body, iron wedge, about 14 inches long, and it is the oldest thing in the box, older than him. It came from his father. It works. Nothing is wrong with it. I sharpened the iron myself in 1990, and it will take a shaving off a board so thin you can read a newspaper through it. I have not used it since. I want to try to say this right, because it is the only part of this that matters, and I have never said it out loud. The handle of that plane, the tote, has a hollow worn into it, right where the web of a thumb sits. It is not a defect, and it is not damage. It is 50 years of one man's hand in one position, and the wood gave up a little at a time until it was the shape of him.
The first time I picked it up, after he died, I put my hand on it, and my hand did not fit.
I'm a bigger man than he was. My thumb sits high of the hollow. And to use that plane properly, I would have to push against the wood in a place his hand never touched, and in about 10 years of using it, there would be a second hollow, or the first one would grow, and it would be the shape of the two of us. I could not do it.
That is the whole thing. There is no lesson in it, and I am not going to make one up. A tool is a record.
Everything else that man did is gone. The barn is standing, but I rebuilt half of it. The house has my roof on it. The timber he cut grew back and got cut again by somebody else. That hollow in that piece of beech is the last physical evidence that his hand was a particular size and that he held a thing a particular way for 50 years. If I use it, I write over it. So it sits on the shelf above my bench where I can see it, and the file and the axe and the draw knife get used every week, and the brace hangs on the wall, and that is the honest accounting. 3 that work, 1 that lost to a better idea, 1 that I will not touch. Now let me tell you the practical part, because I do not want you leaving here sad about a plane. If there is a Bosch like that in your family, open it. I waited 11 years and I do not know what I was protecting. Nothing in there was going to hurt me, and everything in there had something to teach. Second, if you get an old tool, the first thing is not to strip it.
People take a wire wheel to a 100-year-old plane and take off the only thing that made it worth having.
Clean the rust with oil and steel wool and leave the rest alone. Never sand a handle. That handle is the part that has a person in it. Third, buy a file, any hardware store, $10, maybe $15, and then learn to use it on the things you already own. Because I would bet money there is a shovel and a hoe and a set of loppers in your shed right now that you think are worn out. They are not worn out. They are dull, and those are not the same word.
Every one of them can come back in about 4 minutes. That is what he knew that I am trying to hand to you.
Not that old things are better. The things were made to be kept, and keeping them is a skill, and the skill fits in one hand.
Tell me what you have of theirs, not what it is worth. What it is. I read every one of them. Come see me.